what point did you go, we need to get some more people? Because part of growth, and one of the good things that one of the things I did quite admire you for really was obviously we've worked together for quite a number of years, and you've always said, well, we don't want to grow that much. We don't want to be the next, the biggest agency in the country. It's just about servicing the clients that we've got and doing it really well. And it's like, well, yeah, fair play. But even when you are growing slightly, you need to have a plan in place as to when you drop the people in to come and support you. What was the trigger point for you when you went, I need to bring somebody in to help?
I just couldn't manage, really. I think that was basically what it come down to, and it was one of the things I knew I needed to do it, but again, it's the next scary move of what you do in business. It's like then you're kind of responsible for somebody else and not just yourself. So yeah, and when I was thinking about it, because Asia, I trained her as an apprentice at the last place we worked, so we kind of weirdly got back in touch similarly at this time that I was kind of thinking about it. So Asia just kind of come on 2 days because I thought, I'm still a young business. It's a scary thing just saying, yeah, come on full time, do whatever. And so Asia, came on. She'd still got a lot of training to do at that point anyway. So she came on board a couple of days a week and, took the pressure off me in that sense. So I could obviously, again, work on the business side of things because everything were kind of just, you try to do everything and then you're losing focus on things, and it's quite easy to get stuck into the work and then forget about the other side of things.
And I think if you're ever in a position where you're running yourself into the ground, you're on your own, you're doing the accounts, you're doing the client engagement, you're then actually doing the work yourself, and you're doing that 7 days a week, 5 days, whatever. Nice. There becomes a time when you go, it would be far better for my health and not more importantly, but just as importantly, it'd be far better for the business as well. That it's not sustainable. You can't just keep going forever. And if you do keep going forever, you're going to burn out, or you need to take a holiday. If you take a holiday, if you're doing everything, the brakes go on. Now, basically just pull the handbrake up and it stops for 2 weeks. You're going to have to carry the momentum going. Yeah. So it's about recruiting the right people that's going to keep it going, but not recruiting too many people that you haven't got the order book to sustain them.
Yep, and that's what, and I know some of the larger agencies, that's kind of how they run. They'll win new big clients, they'll set another 6 people on, and then when the work disappears, they're kind of, we don't need that.
And it does nothing for someone's career. No. Especially in creative industry. I'm guessing this is a bit of a sweeping statement, but I'm guessing the people who would be taking the opportunities would be potentially new or out of university or younger. So if they're having to then start, it's not going to help them progress, is it? And they're going to end up getting used to one business. Then they're having to then build themselves back up again to go into another, and actually it could create somebody to potentially fall out of love with the work or actually move out of that industry.
It is, and it's a tough one. Obviously, it can knock people's confidence as well, because they could be great designers, but again, if they've had that knock in industry, which it
happens, but
I think we've all, majority of designers will have been at that agency where you just think, is this really what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my days? But then, all the work, you can tell the work's not there, and then you're thinking, where's my job safe? But I think if people are hiring and firing like that as a creative, obviously you're in that momentum doing the great work, and then it kind of just stops because you do try and do things not in a work environment. Working to a client brief is always different to self-initiated stuff because you've got that interaction and everything else. So I think people, and they do lose some kind of skill set if they're getting hired and fired left, right and centre.
So I'm keen to come back onto branding. Now, I know we've touched on branding kind of on over the last half an hour, but from your perspective as a person that specialises in doing branding, what actually is it? What would you define as somebody's brand?
The branding side of things, it's weird. You've got the brand, and the brand's it's accumulation of like a lot of things really. The brand is kind of ignited from the identity, the message, and other things that are kind of underpin that side of things. But then that obviously backs up what people are saying about you as a company, how great you are, and essentially making them become fans of what you're doing. So that kind of helps put you on a pedestal as a brand. It's not that's why I class as we're kind of brand builders in a sense, because we help you to get to that point where you can become a brand and not just a company. It's like most people, like say the Brook things, they'll see what they see, but they'll recognise that your team and who you are.
We've got a really, really good example of how I knew that we were doing something right in the brand. So I started going back to the gym. So it's my goal is getting back in the gym, having that time outside of work. Like you said, you've got your day. Mine is on the mornings, twice a week, I'm going to the gym. It's my goal, I've set it, and I'm going to stick to it. But I knew that we were doing something right in the brand. So I was in the changing rooms, and some guy came up to me. And obviously I had my Brook stuff on, and he came over and said, that new hire, Chris, he's brilliant, that guy. And there's two things I knew we were doing right. One, he obviously recognised our brand in terms of how we were, Chris goes out with his branded stuff on, I do as well. So he's picked up on it and he's recognised it. So it's not something that's just been non-identifiable. He's picked up on the name, the logo, all that stuff. Knew we're doing something right because he's retained it. But just as importantly, the brand is how we're perceived, and it's what we're doing outside in terms of kind of the business and the level of quality that we're delivering and what we're doing. And obviously Chris has gone out, had a meeting with this business kind of off the cuff. So it wasn't a planned meeting, he just went and did some door knocking around one of the programmes that were running for the council, and they got on really well. And the twofold, the fact that we got recognised from actually having that identity, but it was also then cascaded into the quality of service that Chris had provided, then he felt the need to come over to me and tell me, even though he was at the other side of the room. So if we know we're doing something right, if we're getting that level of feedback. And I was like, massive tick in the box for what we're doing, because while the brand is getting pushed out and people might not necessarily come back to you and give you feedback, those little things like that was like, we're definitely doing something right. I thought, it really kind of motivated me to keep pushing it. And then just from that 20-second conversation I had with some random guy in the gym.
I read a quote somewhere, I can't remember the quote exactly, but it said, your brand represents you when you're not in the room. And I think that's a perfect example of that.
It is that, like I said, there's that many touch points that create that overall feel and what people think. But at the end of the day, your brand's it's more important how people perceive you and what they think. It's like you can be the best company in the world, but if you don't look any good, you're not going to get any recognition because people aren't going to walk through the door in some ways. But then you could be the worst company in the world, but look the best, get the people through the door, and if you, like I say, you don't do the customer service thing, your message doesn't align with the brand, say, with the values of that brand, what's being created, that branding, then nothing's ever going to grow and match up.
So there's things that you can deliberately bring, there's things that you can unintentionally bring, and there's the experiences that the people who are paying for your services have with you. And that's kind of what I class as brands. It's not, like I say, it's not just about having fancy things on the wall and a nice logo. It's everything really, isn't it? And that's why I put such a massive importance on brand for us, because previously we've been known as Brook, and that's all our brand has been. I say that's all it's been loosely, but it's been known as one person delivering something, and that was fine for a certain level. But when you're looking at growing and getting a bigger team and having more contracts, having more clients, you need to then invest in it. From your experience, Neil, of working with different businesses, would you say that businesses around here are putting an importance on brand, and do you think that businesses actually genuinely know the importance of it?
I think it seems people are, a lot of the businesses I'm talking to at the minute, you know, when they're approaching us about it, when you actually talk to them, they are, it's like they're getting more of an idea of it. Like I said, they'll have had some kind of, like just a logo for years, you know, and that could be on the shop door or whatever, bit of signage and, you know, a business card. But they've got a great rep, you know, so, but then they understand the other bits where it's kind of got to.
Well, I think our old branding was done on Word.
Yeah.
It was, the branding when I first started was probably Times New Roman, Brook, blue. That was it. And that, you know, but we had a good reputation for what we did, but we didn't have the nicer stuff that underpinned it.
Yeah.
So, you know, businesses do operate like that. Yeah. And we have some businesses that are some consultants that they're our associates, and then they have their own limited business and do work outside of it. And you know, there's not that many people that put a big emphasis on brand. And I'm kind of thinking, if they're operating at that level now, with their name just typed out in Word and they're getting work, then if they actually invested a little bit more money in the brand and everything that we've been going through today, then surely they get more work out of it, because they'll be getting a better image getting pushed out about themselves.
That's the general aim. I mean, like some people, they will come for the branding exercise purely because the messaging's a little bit mixed up. So, but like I say, just having something just knocked together, kind of, which is great. You know, there's nothing wrong with that when they're starting up and things. And it tends to be like, you know, people are a year or 2 years in, and then that's when they realise, actually, we need to do something about this, because that's hampering progress in a lot of ways. But like I say, going back to the old brand.
We've closed that in a cupboard and it's never opened again.
I wish we'd have got a big sheet, you know, old and new. We should have done that. Yeah. But like I say, you don't have to ditch everything from the old one though, because obviously you used a lot of blue and stuff before.
Well, we brought the colour scheme out.
So we brought the blue through. It was the lighter blue, what was kind of similar, but we tweaked it again, and then I incorporated an extra blue just to balance things a little bit. So we had more, when we used it on, like I say, socials and everything else, we had another aspect to play with.
So when you're looking at working with businesses about their identity, where do you start? What do you do with them?
I always ask them, well, why? Why do you want to rebrand? Because, you know, if it's just, if they're doing great and it's purely we want a new identity, then yeah, we can make it look all singing and dancing. But sometimes if they say, you know, we're a little bit lost, we don't know the message and things like that, that's when we have to delve even further, because we do obviously we do the strategy side of things, where it's like you delve into the, you know, what's your business about, who you target in, you know, why you do what you do is, and there's a few other questions what we incorporate into that bit, and then that gives us the answer. So sometimes it depends on where the businesses are at.
Thanks for listening to Biz 15, the voice of the SME. Please log on to our website, which is brookconsult.co.uk, or follow us on Instagram, Brook Consult, or Apple, Spotify, which is Biz 15.